friends, welcome to Acharya 90 FM Your Own Radio. Myself Tejaswini. In our guest interview today, we have invited Bibhas Amonkar sir. Bibhas sir, welcome to our Acharya 90 FM radio station. And along with me, I have Mr. Rahul Bhandarkar sir. So you too,
Hello.
welcome to Acharya 90 FM. We both are gonna interview Bibhas Amonkar sir, and let me tell you about Bibhas sir. He is a advertising professional and he's working into environmental design consultancy, so he'll be giving more knowledge about regarding advertising and biodiversity and related to environment. So first of all, I think would like to ask you what exactly the field you are working in. Could you please give a brief knowledge about that field?
Yeah, actually, I was an ad professional and fully into advertising. In advertising, it demands a lot of time.
Huh.
All the time you are involved in your work, and that made me deviate from my passion, which was nature. Right from childhood, because we are from Goa. In fact, we hail from Goa. I was born and brought up in Mumbai. But during those days, in the holidays, we used to, like, as soon as the exam got over in April, we used to pack our bags and go to Goa. And our place in Goa, we hail from a place called Kurdi. Now that Kurdi village is no more, because there was a dam constructed some 20 years back, and our village got submerged along with 40 other villages. Our village got submerged in that backwaters of the dam, and we were translocated. But when I used to go to Kurdi, it was like an emerald nestled in the thick forest of the rainforest of the southern part of Goa. And ours was the last village. After that, there were only mines, so there was no transport also going ahead from after our village. And I would enjoy my stay there, 2.5 months almost till the rains came in. I used to just frolic in that forest, and it was superb. And I've seen so many wonderful things there, which had me intrigued, and it developed that sense of exploring more, or curiosity
about nature.
And getting to know things, because I would never see those things, those forms, life forms in Mumbai by any chance. And like small things, like there was a nice river and behind our house. So I used to go there in the evening and I used to sit there. And on the bank across, there used to be otters which used to come down in the evenings, and they would frolic in the water with their babies. It was such a wonderful sight. And that was one place where, in fact, you must have heard of a pangolin. The scaly ant, and that is being hunted in a very big way in India today for its scales, unfortunately. So I must have been 12, 13 years of age, and I was just walking down one forest path, and there was some scrambling, and I saw a pangolin getting down from a tree and running across, So that too at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So pangolins are nocturnal animals, and you can imagine the kind of rich forest that existed there. Today these things are, I think,
we are missing.
Missing.
Our generation is rather missing.
So, or we are losing out on these beautiful places. So that, in fact, always had that, it built a passion in my this, and I took to photography later on. I used to photograph lesser known animals or plants, So because there is very less data available on that, so I took to things like spiders. And I started learning about spiders and tried to find out. And there were, you won't imagine, there were only 2 people who had done their PhDs on spiders in those good old days, in the 80s. And Dr. Tikadar. So I went to him as a school boy, and he was so happy that a young boy like me was there, sort of
taking a lot of
subject.
interest in that.
And that is how I developed. Then I studied snakes, and when I go out to shoot wildlife, I don't look more at the tigers and the larger, the glamour kind of wildlife.
Okay.
I always look at the smaller species. That is the whole story about the environment. That is what the environment is. So that's how, and that is how I am continuing now. I have given up advertising, taken a break now. It's enough, and now I am fully into environmental conservation and adventure sports.
Yeah.
This is such an interesting tale, sir. Ki with such a rich flora and fauna you are accustomed to in such an early age, and that's what you were entering towards environment. And looking at your say the background that you have come in from, you have a background in music, you then to ad films, and then to environment. Such a diverse background. It always makes me deep dive into what actually gives a kick to a person to go and work towards the environment. As a young person, as a young enthusiast, what is that particular kick which makes us go to environments and do things that are against the tide?
Yeah. See, when you talk about environment today, basically environment is what? The place that you live in, right? As far as humans,
Yeah.
we think about our house and our place of work, and maybe the town or city that you are living. That is what environment means to us. But beyond that, in the natural context, environment is much wider, right? From space to atmosphere to rain to water, earth, and then the life forms that all this supports.
Yeah.
So it's such an intriguing kind of an area, and that's what, in fact, in the initial stages, it is this kind of intrigue or that inquisitiveness which propelled me towards looking at it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there would be in childhood days there would be comics and things. They're not like now. We are all electronic media.
Yeah, it's digital,
But
everything
those
is
times
gone.
there were comics and storybooks. But I was always like more interested in finding out what nature had to give me, the stories that nature had to tell me, and they were so interesting, and that's why I turned to nature, and I started looking at different forms of life and tried to understand why they were there. Basically, we all have to understand why is a particular plant there. Because of the fact that the environment supports its growth, its existence.
Yeah.
And that is very important. That every environment, if you see, it has its own ecosystem, and then there are micro ecosystems, there are habitats. So these all are supportive to the kind of life forms that you see there.
Okay.
So like incidentally, like now, suppose in Sahyadris, we find a particular set of animals or plants which survive, and then insects are there, of course, other things are there. You go to Himalayas, it will be different. So the biotope varies depending on the climatic conditions, and that is what creates the kind of forest or the ecosystem that survives there. Like here in Sahyadri, we have the rains coming in southwest rains, and the Sahyadri is like a small baby sitting on the hip of a mother,
Yeah.
or India, like our country.
Yeah.
On one side of the western flank, there is this Sahyadri range, right, starting from Nawapur, that is near Gujarat border, and going right up to the point where it is Kanyakumari. That's the last point.
Yeah.
And there what happens is, in Maharashtra we call it Sahyadri. Where if you see, it's a continuous range without any break.
Yeah.
Okay, but when you start going south, there are different ranges like Nilgiris, then there are other Annamalai hills, and there are again there's the Palakkad gap. There are these breaks in the Sahyadri.
Right.
But in Maharashtra it is called Sahyadri, and overall it is known as the Western Ghats. Right now, this Western Ghats is in such a situation, located in such a place that there are these southwest monsoons which come in, the clouds which bring rain, they go up the Sahyadris, okay, and that is where the rainfall happens. So the Konkan belt, talking about the Sahyadris, the Konkan belt gets maximum rainfall, and then the clouds which carry on beyond that go on to the Deccan plains, so that is the rain shadow part. So there the rain reduces. Like today, if you see in the plains of Maharashtra, Amravati, Nanded, and all, they have very less water.
We call it a dry place.
Dry area. And most of them are drought now, affected areas. So that water or that rain which falls there, it gives support to a particular ecosystem there. Going there. That is what rainforests are. And these rainforests are normally perennial resources of rivers, which are very vital for humankind, mankind. Wherever we go, we need water. Yeah. As important as the oxygen that we breathe. And unfortunately today, we don't value these things because we are getting them free.
Yeah.
I want some entertainment, so I go and buy a huge 50-inch TV maybe. I pay money for that. This, when I'm getting it free, I don't realize the importance of it and the value of it. So there is a kind of a tendency to neglect these things, and that is what has brought us to this precarious moment where everything seems to be like sort of getting endangered, or that is what we are now fighting for. Talking about
global warming.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you one question that I know about how you grow up as an environmentalist. As I know, there is only one college in Goa, that is Goa College of Oceanography. So related to environment. So how did you grow up as an environmentalist? From where you have taken
Goa,
the
I was interested also in
Oceanography. Marine, yeah, okay.
and I founded the National Institute of Oceanography is there in Goa. But knowingly, I didn't get into that, because
Okay.
I know that once I want to photograph, if I want to photograph marine life, I'll have to dive.
Yeah.
And once I dive underwater, there's so much there that I would have been found less on land.
Okay.
So I didn't get into that, and it's a little more difficult,
Okay.
to find that kind of time and dedicate. There are, of course, hats off to those people who are working in that area. But otherwise, yes, environment, like we have like sort of outlets here. Like I was fortunate when I was in school, I became a student member of the BNHS, one of the apex kind of environmental organizations in India, which has completed more than 125 years.
Okay.
And we of course had Salim Ali, Dr. Salim Ali,
Wow.
the great ornithologist, heading that organization. And I was fortunate enough to have being able to interact with him certain this. And I was also on the nature education subcommittee in BNHS, where I employed my expertise as an artist or a designer,
Okay.
to create material for reaching out to people, to create awareness, because that is what we find is very important today. It has to, like, the value of this whole conservation idea has to get to the root, where to the common man, maybe illiterate or literate,
Yeah.
whatever. And that is what I started doing. So slowly it started a chain reaction. And then my photography has to go out, interact with nature.
Yeah.
Then you come back to places like BNHS, where you refer to books to identify what you've seen. So that is how it worked out.
So since you have worked with legends like Salim Ali in this area, tell us some more memories about your interaction with him, because our listeners would love to listen to those memories. We have heard of Salim Ali, we have read about his books, but you have been the first hand direct interaction with the legend.
Yes.
So would like to listen to more of such memories.
Yeah, in fact, I feel myself blessed to have been with, not only Dr. Salim Ali, but there were other greats in the field like Dr. B.F. Chapgar, who was considered an authority on marine life, and then Maruti Chitampalli, the forest department person. But his knowledge about nature was fantastic, and I had a very good chance to interact with them in a very personal level. One is that I was very young, so they had a little
trauma whether you'll be able to grab.
Develop a liking towards me. Itna chota sa bacha hai, he's good, and let's guide him and all that. And I used to pester them, small comments. But one thing I noticed with all these experts is, no matter what kind of a question I posed to them, they would never think, "Arey kya hai, bacche jaisa kya push hota hai." Never. They have always tried to solve that question in my head. And that's what Salim Ali, of course, we used to interact a lot more, because I was part of the education committee, so we had meetings then. And he used to be always supportive of all our suggestions. In fact, corrected. If there were any flaws in that, he would correct us, and then he would always support us in all our activities. Like I remember my colleague and my, of course, friend, philosopher and guide, who I say, Mr. Ullas Rane, an architect by profession and environment architect. I lost him in this COVID, unfortunately. But we used to always say, that BNHS in those good old days was like a white-collar institute, rich Parsis and rich businessmen and rich people in Mumbai were members. It would not percolate to the grassroots levels. So me and Ullas, we put this up strongly in front of Dr. Salim Ali, that it has to reach the thousands of Maharashtrians which live here.
Yeah.
And we took out a rally in those good old days, Konkan rally. And that was the first time when BNHS let us publish a few books in small booklets in Marathi, catering to snakes, topics like common topics which they have to live with every day, groundwater, like these, very small books which is distributed among the masses there. And that Salim Ali, of course, supported us. One incident I'll tell you about. He was walking encyclopedia of environment.
Environment.
Yeah. And hats off to his like enthusiasm. He was like a child, you know. And I remember he was in his last days, he was in his house at Kihim, where he had a nice ancestral house, very old this. And the typical Konkan roof type house, you know. And there were coconut trees. That is where he wrote that Fall of the Sparrow.
Okay.
And about the yellow-throated sparrow. That whole story was written there. And he was living in his last days there. So I wanted to meet him once. So I called his assistant, and she gave me an appointment. We went and met him there. And I think that was my destiny, you know, that I could photograph him in his last days. And I think I was the only person who had photographs of that period of it. After a few days, he expired, passed away. And it was a great loss to India in terms of an environmental scientist like him. Fantastic. So one incident when I was talking to him, he had a huge desk, you know, this typical wooden British kind of desk in BNHS. He holds open a drawer and takes out a photograph and throws it in front of me. Look at this. And that was a photograph of a courser. You know, it's a ground bird. Like you have this titwi Marathi. So that bird, it's a ground bird. And he had taken the photograph, and in that photograph what I could see is the ground, the bird's on that ground, and he's looking up into the camera.
Okay.
You know, so I was amazed, like this bird, if you see him in the field, you know, he'll never stop.
Yeah.
Keep running on this, you know, trying to go get away from you. So I asked him, how is this possible? See, he says like, next time you try this out, you know, it will not spoon feed you everything. It would make you go into the field and try out things.
Yeah.
You know, that is
And
how
it's
you
very
hands-on.
Yeah, that is how
Motivate a
Yeah.
person to do
develop that
hands-on
habit of,
work.
you know, actually going and experiencing and learning out of that experience. You know? So that is one thing which these people did, all of them, of course. And he told me, you know, when you see that, you keep your bag where you are standing, take out your camera, you take it and start walking towards that bird. So you walk 10 steps, come back to your starting point. Then you walk 20 steps, you come back to your starting points. Keep doing that. You return to that spot and go back. So the bird gets accustomed to your
Behavior.
presence there.
Yeah,
presence
presence.
behavior.
Okay.
And then it doesn't see any harm in that. So there will be a time when you can actually stand next to the bird and take this from a top angle. This photograph. That is how I've taken this.
Okay.
It was like amazing, you know. What book must have taught him that? Nothing. But field experience. That's why I always say, you know, like of course there are, I mean, all respect to due scientists, all respect due to scientists. But when I see, like, you know, I fail to see a scientist, he maybe have written a PhD on a particular species. But you take him to some other area than where he has worked, and ask him to look at the species, it is difficult for him to do.
Yeah.
Because that is what, you know, his lab is, or his table is what is giving him that knowledge. And that is his focus knowledge. But there are so many other things, just maybe next to the plant. There will be some other thing which is equally unknown or this, you know,
undiscovered.
It's so intricate, that whole ecosystem. You know, that it happens. Now in north, if you go, I've been visiting the Valley of Flowers in Uttarakhand for the last 13, 14 years now, living aside the COVID period.
Okay.
And I have had 2 exhibitions of flowers in Mumbai. One was at, in 11 I had it at Raniratta Mandir, the old one. And in 14 I had it at the Jahangir Art Gallery. That displayed the photographs. Over the 13 years that I have visited the Valley of Flowers, it started off with my first trek, you know, in somewhere around 2004-05. I went there for the first time. I went to the valley. When I reached the valley, I just kept my camera aside on the forest floor over there, and I prostrated. I Sastang Namaskar ghadla त्या जागेला. Because that is what makes you realize ki how small human beings are.
Okay.
And the kind of panorama that was there in front of my eyes was like heaven there. Maybe we get different kind of blooms, you know, like, and the idea about that whole, the best part of that whole thing is when you go there once, you see the whole thing in bloom. You go there 15 days later on, that patch of yellow flowers would have turned to maybe red
Some
or purple.
pink color. Yeah.
No, so it's one species coming, flowering, and then going back, and then the other species. It goes on for about 3.5 months. And after that, that entire, it starts snowing. The entire area gets snow covered, like, you know, snow caps. So it is dormant kind of.
Yeah.
And then when the snow melts in May, these flowers come up again, the plants.
The
But
blooming
do
again starts.
Do this flora and fauna has the medicinal value?
Yeah.
Yeah,
In fact,
as
if you
the
talk to the
Sahyadris, they
locals,
have.
you know, every plant which grows there, they have some medicine and they have applications for that. You know, like there is one, this buras, that is the rhododendrons. They flower there. You know, there are trees, in fact. They are not part of the Valley of Flowers, just on the fringes you will find those trees. But up north, when you go after April, most of the areas, like, you know, where Himalayan ranges,
Yeah,
of course, I'm
yeah.
talking about, you will find the slopes either pink or blue, I mean, or red, you
Yellow.
know, or white or yellow. Those are all rhododendrons, and they're forests, and the whole mountainside blooms, you know. So it's like vast kind of a patch of that color.
Yeah.
Beautiful and fragrant. And those people, they call it buras in their local language, and that has a medicinal value, of course, but they make sharbat out of it.
Oh.
You know, you get there on the stalls also bottled this. But that's a very nice delicacy, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
Very tasty sharbat they make out of it. So like that, there are a lot of, medicinal values. And of course, in Ayurveda, it has been mentioned.
Jari
So they, Jadi Booty, they use that. You know, locally, it's a common use of these medicinal plants.
Our
So-
ecosystem has been such that everything is interlinked to
Yes.
the species, everything is interlinked to the life. I would not say human life, but to the entire
Biosystem,
life,
yeah.
biodiversity
Mm.
is interlinked.
Yeah.
So, considering World Environment Day,
Mm.
which is now there, you had mentioned in our talks about the cycling of Sahyadris, the cycling activity for awareness
Mhm.
that we had undertaken.
Yes.
Our listeners would like to know more about this. On how about the Environment Day? Now it's of course being celebrated across,
Yes.
but the actual ethos of environment is not getting boiled down to the audience, which it should ideally be. So how do you see it as an environment enthusiast?
Yeah, see, as I said earlier, I think that, you know, environment has come free to us. Okay, if I want to live somewhere, I pay crores of rupees and buy a flat.
Exactly.
Water I'm using through the tap,
Yeah, it's
I'm
free
paying
of
tax for that. Roads I'm using, I'm paying tax.
Yeah,
Environment is the only thing which is coming free.
free.
And that is why people are, I think, reluctant to kind of, you know, value it that way
Yeah,
as of today. If you see today, I mean, of course, like we have all the facilities. It's towards facilitating life, you know, getting
Yeah.
ease into life, or like, you know, say entertainment, or like technology. Now you're talking about science, like we've gone far beyond the Mars also now. Okay,
Yeah.
we are exploring maybe more to space to live for human beings. I don't know. But one question I keep asking myself: has science so advanced been able to develop blood? No.
Not possible.
If I need blood, you have to donate blood too.
Yeah.
Has it been able to develop water?
No.
No.
The prime requirement for our survival. No. So there are certain things which are given free to us and in such a big way. You know, so those are all resources, and we are neglecting our resources, unfortunately. Like we want roads to go from here to there, but what about the ghats which we have to cross through which the road will go?
Yeah.
It will definitely create some kind of damage to that ecosystem, that
Ecosystem.
environment. Now, how important is that? Should we let it go just like that? Because we have not paid anything to
Yeah.
for it being there. Okay, but we make a road, we are going to pay toll taxes for that road, right? So that we have to realize, and we have to realize that importance of that entire ecosystem or environment being there for us today. You know, so and it will be, I think, now we have created so much of damage. And you know, humans, if you know, that is the only species on earth which is damaging the environment to an extent, because we have lost the entire balance of the whole environment, and that has ruined the whole thing, you know. So we need to seriously look at this. Even our policies have to be designed that way, which will support the environment and the upkeep
Yeah.
and the conservation of environment. You know, we want huge projects, mega projects, like we want the ceiling, we want the highways, we want the
Metros.
like, you know, metros, we want dams, we want mines. So we need ore to produce whatever we require. And of course, we have given birth to giants like plastic today, which we have, we have not yet found a way to make it perishable, right? So that is going to stay on earth till maybe generations to come
Yeah.
and go. But plastic will remain there.
Yeah.
And the kind of that damage that plastic is causing, you'll be alarmed, like the marine environment has been dumped with plastic. And you find, in papers or in media that some whale has washed up across on the shore, or the nesting birds are on the shore. They die, and then when the entrails come out, there are huge, batches of plastic inside, which they have digested unknowingly, or ingested unknowingly. And that is putting an end to those species. Even I came across a carcass of a cow the other day. And it had rotten, but near the area where it was stomach would have been, which was rotted away, there was a whole bunch of plastic bags, entangled and like that. That makes one sick, seeing these things. So I think we need to look at these actions that we are into, like, how much water we use, for instance. We just can't wait. If there's a tap dripping water because the washer is not working, it's your duty to go and change the washers, because that's a precious resource that we are losing out.
Yeah.
And we are not bothered about that, I'm just bothered about going to my home and whether my AC is working. It's not working, I'm like, worked up. Then I'm spending hundreds of rupees to get that repaired immediately. But that one small washer which is giving way to that water, we are like neglecting it,
Yeah.
So that priority we have to realize.
How to create awareness among the common people to save our environment?
See, when we go out on these rallies and or nature camps, and we take our school students and college students out into the wilds, we go into the rural areas, and there we find out that they have snakes, so we try and tell them about snakes. They are not harmless. They are harmless and they are not harmful to you. They are farmers' friends and all that. But for forgetting the fact that they are living with snakes, and you just learnt about snakes. It's a big difference,
Yeah.
So when you have experienced that environment where you are living in, you know much more about it, and they are quite wise enough. They don't need any knowledge from, because every day they are handling those snakes. So likewise, people used to say that these tribals, or the Adivasis as we call them, they exploit nature. And I have been fortunate enough for the government to make about 16 documentaries on Maharashtra tribals.
Okay.
Right from Madhya Gold, to Amravati region, to Bhils.
Gondia.
The Korku tribes, Wardi tribes. And one thing I've noticed is those people really use the forest sustainably. They are not just holding wood because they are living in forests. They would just bring that amount of wood, that too, which is maybe lying around on the floor, collect that, bring it. They'll not hack down a huge saag tree for their day-to-day fuel requirements. You collect all this wood. So these people really, know the importance of that sustainability, and that is what we are missing out.
They know how to utilize a resource and to what extent it should be utilized.
So the value of that resource, it's going to be there, but then unless we protect it that way. And the similar thing we have found in sacred forests, devrais, as you call it. There are hundreds and thousands of devrais. Now these devrais have come up on the concept that, of course, those are based religiously. In Marathi we call it Deva's forest. So there is a forest which is given to the gods, it's kept for the gods, and nothing is going to touch that. Nobody is going to touch.
It's sacred. It's a sacred place.
Forest. So most of these places, if you see, they are the source of rivers. Small, you will find them streams coming out from some rock over there, because of the environment there. It's like the trees are so huge, there's shadow, and those are all good absorbing points for water in the rains. And that water which is retained into sinks into the ground, and then that emerges somewhere as a stream. And those streams, come together and then they form a river, which it is feeding millions of people along its flow, maybe to the seashore. So in our Sahyadris, most of these big rivers which we have, they originate there. And now, what has happened is, if you go from, say, let's take an example, we travel from here to Pune, or beyond, to say Kolhapur. When you look around from the road, like all the hills that you see there, you see them barren. So that is actually now global warming when you're talking about, that's going to, it's like heating up the whole area, the land. Whereas the tree cover would act as a buffer.
Exactly.
And so also attract rain and absorb that. Now what has happened is that has dried, the trees have gone. because of logging, and people have used up those forests for agriculture and their personal needs, day-to-day needs for fuel and all that. So what has happened is those areas have become exposed. Now when it rains, the topsoil starts flowing down.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised, I had read it in the Reader's Digest years ago, that 1 centimeter of topsoil needs 30 years to form.
Oh.
Yeah.
So whatever falls on the ground, it decomposes and then it converts into soil. But it takes 30 years to form 1 centimeter layer of topsoil.
Yeah.
And when it rains, it brings down tons of that soil.
Yeah.
And the rocks get exposed.
Yeah.
So that is what it will be a common sight all over, when you travel. So what needs to be done is we need to provide that cover again. Where a lot of people now are going into afforestation projects. Like you also said, like sir said last, that we make seed balls.
Seed balls.
Which your students go and plant there.
Plant there.
So these kind of actions are required. They are not only required, but they are very necessary and vital if we are talking about conservation or carrying ahead this resource, passing it on to our future generation.
Next generation.
Yeah. So because they are vital for survival. Okay, I mean the next generation maybe they will get fed up of the TV and keep it in the box and not look at the TV also.
Yeah.
But water they'll need to drink to survive. So that we need to preserve, and that will be preserved only when we preserve these areas. Conserve them. So if we provide forest cover, we need to look at one thing is forestation when it was done, initially you would find nilgiri being planted, which is not a plant or a tree from our region. So that is one very important factor that you got to address there, is that when you're talking about, one thing we have to understand for sure is that you cannot create a forest. Okay, it would be a larger garden. Say, like Miyawaki.
Yeah, that's the differentiation.
Miyawaki is a big controversy, But Miyawaki, fine. If it's for a city, a smaller space, it's fine. But Miyawaki is not a forest at core.
Yeah.
You can't create a tropical forest, because a tropical forest starts at the micro level, ground level, to the 120 or 140 feet of tree canopy.
Yeah.
Okay. The entire system, just talked about, the intricacy of that whole system. Why it is called a system is because there are each
layer is interlinked to each other.
And if one strand is removed,
missing,
then
everything
the whole
gets
thing
collapses.
That is what the whole idea of web of life is, So each strand is important, and we need to do that. For a start, I think a common man can start by planting trees, but he has to just find out from people who know about it what trees to be planted where.
Yeah.
That is very important.
Whether that tree is native to that particular place.
It has to be native, and secondly, there cannot be monocultures,
Yeah.
One, if you have a hill, you just can't go on planting maybe sag or Tectona grandis, as they would call it, teak tree, all over that whole mountain. It has to be a mix of different species. So for that, one needs to study the adjoining forest, if there is, like Bhimashankar, for instance. A beautiful place, where we find our state animal there, the shekru, or the giant squirrel. Now that survives in that forest. So these are small indicators, which show that the forest, the quality of that forest.
Yeah, this forest has this particular habitat.
Yeah, and so that can be replicated.
Okay.
So if you study, like suppose if you want to extend the forest of Bhimashankar, it can be done, but it should be done the forest way, and not the neo-garden style of
the urban forest.
Urban
The right term is. It should not be done in the urban forest method.
Like, chalo yaar, अच्छा लगता है देखने के बाद. It's like
it's just a cosmetic change that people do it for photo ops and all, but it is not a natural habitat.
Right. Now, suppose I am living in Mumbai on a big building. I have a small gallery.
16th floor.
Right. Initially there used to be bungalows or in villages, like where you had some ample space to park your car also. Now we don't have place to even park our car, so we have these podiums. And in the given balcony we try to bring in some plants. But I would say that if you get in some plants which are supportive to butterfly farm, I mean to help the butterflies lay their eggs, because butterflies is one small thing in the whole ecosystem. You look at them, they are beautiful to look at. But then it's a very nice, interesting life form that they go through, the whole cycle. Like they lay eggs. Now each butterfly species lay eggs, need a particular species of plant to lay their eggs on. You call it a food plant. and there are nectar plants where the adult butterfly feeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But this plant, if it is gone from the earth, that species of butterfly will also
Yeah, it will
It's-
diminish from the.
Yeah. So that interaction between or correlation between the two species is very important. Now that plant will come up in a particular kind of soil.
Yeah.
So that is how it is all intricate.
The
It's
journey
really
itself
linked.
is interlinked to the human, like the human way. Everything is interlinked there.
Yes.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
you can.
I would like to ask you one thing. Which are the species which are getting exhausted? That can you clarify on that? And which
Oh
are
my
the
God.
species we have to
I
take
think
care of?
There are about something
Many
like
of them.
7,000 something odd species of plants which are found in the Sahyadris,
Okay.
out of which about 1,200 are endemic.
Mhm.
Endemic meaning they are found in only that
That
ecosystem or
particular
that
region.
particular region.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and in that there are animals, there are animals meaning mammals.
Yeah.
There are about 130, 35 species. Then there are butterflies, there are birds, then there are other insects,
Mhm.
and of course amphibians are there. About 300 or 250 odd reptile species are found.
Yeah.
Equal amount of amphibians are found. And we hardly know them, because recently also, if you see, there are new species which are being described from the Sahyadris or the Western Ghats, which was not known to science till yet. So we don't even get to see the actual in-depth kind of structure that supports all these life forms.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, and of course that should be realized, and for that you need to create awareness, and for awareness you need to create. I would focus creating awareness with the school children of
Schools
today,
and colleges.
because it is their future that we are talking about.
Yeah.
So those students should be made aware through different. There are a lot of vast media now. The advancement of technology. You can have small exhibitions. You can have interactive with this.
Yeah,
then
small
you can even
trips we can
promote
arrange.
photography,
Yeah.
because even the small child in the school would be carrying a mobile camera which comes with
Yeah.
a camera.
Yeah.
Okay, so he can take photographs and then he can find out what it is.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah, so
botanical and zoological
Yeah, both.
tours also arranged.
Even like issues like if suppose there is a landslide, a lot of documentation can happen. If this younger crowd is made aware of the importance of this subject. And likewise, once you have a child involved, naturally his parents get involved. So that's how you spread that awareness. And
Yeah.
once you get them aware, you get them together to work on the solutions. And I'm talking about small time solutions. I'm not talking about the large solutions that corporates are doing, or people with money, lots of money, or people with lots of manpower can do, or the government can do. It's about every individual who is living there. He can do a lot of
Actions.
which can be focused on conservation.
Right.
Being a wildlife photographer, what exactly the wildlife photographer has to pursue? That would be my question. And it's a different from general photographer and wildlife photographer.
It is.
There's a lot of difference.
Yes.
So he should be very patient.
Yes,
So-
patience is the key
Yeah.
involved in that. And of course, for that, like wildlife photography, it needs a lot of effort in terms of travel.
Travel, yeah.
Because you
And the
can't see-
climatic conditions.
Climatic conditions are there, travel is there, expenses are there, of course. And then you have to, like, as you said, patience. You have to
Yeah.
sit for hours together to get
Yeah.
a particular picture. You need to have that much patience. But more than that, you need to, I would say that people go out photograph the tiger. National park, they go Tadoba, so for instance. You every day, have a horde of pictures on the WhatsApp
Yeah.
showing the tigers. But I hate seeing those pictures. Because
Yeah.
what I see behind the tiger
The
is another
live
jeep
thing is important.
with tourists,
Yeah.
piled onto that jeep.
Jeep.
So that is not what it should be.
Okay.
Actually there is a rule that, when you see an animal or a tiger in the national park, there is a barrier of 15 feet that you have to keep. 50
Yeah.
feet.
50 feet.
You can't approach closer to that.
Yeah.
There are people, of course, administrative level also, and it has to be monitored properly. And basically, it is the duty of the visitor to know that.
It's a kind of respect that
Exactly.
one living life has to give to another living life.
Exactly. It's an exchange.
Yeah, we talk about a lot of privacies to human life, that this is my private space, nobody should enter. But when it comes to, say, species or animals, we forget the same rules and somehow we try to enter into their space and we disturb the entire ecosystem. So I would like your quick bites on the kind of awareness you have been doing through cycling rallies and all, because this is one area which every young enthusiast would like to know. What kind of rallies have been happening through cycling thing? There have been many cycling groups who have been doing this environmental rallies.
It's a very good question. So mode of this approach to sort of obtain these objectives that you're looking at. Yes, as you say, cycling is a very good activity because it is, in fact, the only thing you have got to put in is the effort of cycling. Okay, it doesn't require fuel, so no pollution. It is a very silent kind of mode of transport. It doesn't make any noise, like you have a truck going by or a car going by. So noise pollution is reduced, zero absolutely. Fuel is not required, and it's a vehicle at your beck and call. You can go anywhere and approach a particular area. And the thing is, it is also good for fitness. It's an excellent exercise, cycling.
Exactly.
So, and that has fortunately become very popular now. I remember once in good old days, we had these Atlas or those other hero cycles, the typical, we used to call it the Dudh Wale ka cycle.
The heavy duty cycles.
And of course, they were strong. They could take cans of milk on that. But now, as we say, we have developed. So we have developed cycles also to a level that it has become very comfortable for us. The multi-geared cycles and multi-terrain cycles available. So one can really choose that, and people are fortunately interested in getting the interest in cycling. If you see overall, like you have cricket fans, like there are cycling fans also, and there are a lot of people who are involving themselves into cycling. Like
youngsters are more involved.
Yeah, more involved, and that is what can be a good mode of communication and reaching out to these places. You can form small groups, go out to places. Maybe people can even adopt certain areas. Talk to the villagers, convince them. And I have found out, over the years, maybe how many, like 40 years, 4 decades of working in this field, I have noticed that, people welcome your ideas. As long as they don't want you to go there and give them some Mahagyan and, go back to your city and settle down,
Yeah.
If you keep maintaining those relations, going back to them, monitoring what their activities and helping them out, because
engaging, continuous engagement.
They don't know the technicalities of doing something.
Yeah.
If you tell them to plant trees, maybe they'll see, okay, what मेरे को फायदा किस में है, आम का लगाऊं तो अच्छा है, जामुन का लगाऊं तो फायदा, कुछ तो I'll get it out of it.
Right.
But they also would not understand the concept of planting something like a local species there. Shag also has its use. There are so many other species. Or other like Bahawa, for instance, the laburnum. Such a beautiful tree. Though it flowers for only 2-3 months in the summer, but that whole one bloom gives you so much joy to look at.
The sight itself makes us so positive.
That medicinal value. That has become very less in the forest that we see today. So these trees need to be preserved and replanted in places. So for that, now what we are doing is, under the Save the Western Ghats, I am planning to start seed banks in different schools all over the region, like Konkan. We have established good contact with certain schools during this rally. And then, there's some places of kids, I saw them, our cyclists, when they park their cycles, and these kids were hovering around the cycles because they had never seen a cycle with so many gears and such fancy kind of tires and things like that. So they immediately got attracted to that. Now to harvest that interest which they have shown and mold it into them working for the environment, is the key between it. And if you go on doing it repeatedly, they do respond to that, and you get excellent results.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because we've seen those results over the past, school children going out and planting forest. First we started with, temple and school. Because that is where if you do something, it is protected,
Right.
So, one year we started this nursery in a school. We had them plant trees. And after 2 years, when we went back to that area, they had called all the parents and they had a small get-together to meet us. So, one lady, she walked up to the mic and she said, I want to say something.
Okay.
So she said, I want to really thank you. Because तुम्ही माझ्या मुलाला चांगलं वळण लावताय. I said, why? Why do you say this? No, because my son was fed up of carrying his bag. So leave aside the question of a water bottle. But one day I found him carrying 2 water bottles. So I wanted to find out what is happening with this guy. Why
is he carrying
these 2? So I went and followed him one day to school. And when I saw him at the gate, he put his bag down, pulled out those 2 bottles and went and planted watered the plant that he had planted there.
Okay.
So that kind of interaction took place. And that kind of mindset was
developed.
Brought into that kids. And she said very happy, thoda sa pani to pito. But then he has this responsibility of seeing to it that the tree lives. And that happened with each and every kid. So that today when I see that it's a forest. That's how it builds up, that's how people
There's a kind of enthusiasm you require at the ground level.
Yes.
You really want to survive.
At our own we need to also sort of look back into what we are doing. We say charity begins at home.
Yeah.
Right? So likewise, if I am eating something in a plastic I should see to that I dispose it off properly. Okay. So that is very important.
Yeah. And taking a cloth back to a market.
Exactly. Now when we go on this beach cleanup drives, a couple of my friends and organizations like Sprouts, they are doing this regularly. And the kind of tonnage that they get out of garbage. Because see, once you throw something in the sea, anything is thrown in the sea, it throws it back. And the high tide it comes back. Go to Shivaji Park in the monsoon, you will find the whole road leading to that shore littered with garbage.
That
is what the sea has given you back.
Yes.
So you understand
what you throw, that comes back.
This nonsense is not going to be tolerated by nature. But certain areas where there are plastic bags lying around the forest, what happens is that area gets covered. And then the micro life forms which survive under that, they die out. So that's how it is damaging the environment. So we need to curtail it at the root level.
Yeah. All the best for your future endeavors as you are taking care of Mother Earth. So wish you all the best for your future projects. And thank you for joining us on Acharya 90 FM, your own radio. Thank you, sir. So friends, today we had Bibhas Amonkar sir, environmental design consultant and advertising professional with us, and with me I had Mr. Rahul Bhandarkar sir with me. We will be ending it with this session and we'll be meeting up sir in the next session. Till then, keep listening Acharya 90 FM, your own radio. Thank you for joining us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.